Stories are navigating filial but complex relationships. My name is Osadumebi, and every week I will tell you a short story written by a Nigerian writer or author. That's the long and short of it. So without much ado, this week's story is by Hajarat Ali, and it's titled My Mother and Her Broken Reflection. I am the spitting image of my mother. She gave me her big eyes, which sent me 100 signals per second. When I was a child, her eyes were the traffic lights in public situations. They told me when to stop, pause, or go ahead with whatever action I intended. We had a telepathic connection, my mother and I. One day, I imitated her eye language in the mirror, and they spoke. That day, I understood how she gave them to me. Eyes were not the only things my mother gave me. My nose ridge follows hers into the deep valley which partitions our upper lip. It is shaped into perfect kissable lips, but my mother has never kissed me. I would often stare at her lips with admiration as she smiled, hissed, or pouted. When she had on red lipstick, they looked like they were on fire. Melting fire. I remember sneaking into her room to apply her red lipstick. My lips looked so good, I got lost in my reflection in the mirror till she found me. She beat the living daylight out of me. I didn't understand why she would punish me with such bitterness for trying to look like her. My mother says I am not like her. She says I am stubborn like my father. Whenever I complained about her hitting me, she said my father taught me to talk back at her. She said I wanted to boss her around, something other children dared not to do to their mothers. So I swallowed my thoughts and chorused like a tape recorder playing on a loop. Yes, ma. Everything my mother says is correct. She is never wrong. As I grew older, I tried to avoid my mother's wrath through acceptance. Before I could realize it was gone, my love for her wandered far away. My acceptance became an avoidance of her presence altogether. Even living in the same house, I was distant. These days, we have begun to get closer in a way that makes me want to flee. The subject of marriage has turned her into a goddess of wrath. It didn't matter if I was doing well in my career or business. If I didn't have a king, I could not become a queen. I must leave the kitchen her husband got for her and find my own. But I cannot leave my father's house because I am unmarried. Single women without anyone to watch over them must not rent houses. I must not cook the food a certain way because that's how single women cook. I don't know how to clean. I use too much soap. I don't use the right lid to cover the pot. There is a speck of dust left on the floor after I said I swept it. I do not smile at strange men who come into our house without knocking. My anger would boil over like a wedu cooked with potash. Its foam rose from my throat, but it would never leave my mouth. It dared not. If it did, my mother would be the most unfortunate of all mothers. One whose daughter has gone wayward because she wasn't well trained. One who will now see her daughter go to hell because Satan has taken over her life. I had gone out into the world and learned that everybody, not just me, as I'd been made to believe, but every single person makes mistakes. I now know my mother makes mistakes too. I have seen it. Many, many mistakes. Mistakes that she always had excuses for. Sometimes, she did not bother to explain. Why would she? Who would a mother explain her mistakes to? Who is above her? One day, My mother was transferring oil into a bottle. I advised her to use a funnel. She refused. She said she could do it without the funnel, that she is not a child. I watched as she poured it with careless expertise. Halfway through, she lost her balance, and the oil slopped onto the body of the bottle and the floor. And then, the bottle fell over, creating a mess. She raised her eyes at me, those big stabbing eyes that told me what to do when I was a child. I stared back. I had those eyes too. Didn't I warn you? I started. If I was the one that made this kind of mistake, the whole world will hear that I am wasting your food. You will say I don't know how it feels to work for money. Can you see yourself? I hissed, swiping her face with my own big eyes and looking away. Seconds passed, and my mother remained frozen to the spot, unblinking. My body moved into action. I picked up the bottle and began to wipe the oil, trying to salvage as much as possible. I had not said a word. No. Those words you heard were formed only in my head, and they stayed stuck in my throat. They did not come out. But my mother was different when she took me to her friends' gatherings. She was a proud peacock, and I, her feathers. She would tell her friends about how my business was booming, how I was well behaved and took care of the home. My baby girl is not like all those children who didn't face their studies in school. Children nowadays have grown up to be something else, and it shows. She would brag. She would call me baby girl. Me. And you're going to get an award for your poem next month, aren't you? She would place her hand on her chest. Concern would lace her voice. Care flood her eyes, and her teeth complete in her smile. I would show some teeth too, but I could not smile. I would look at all her friends, their necks stretched out, to hear my response so they would gossip later. I would then read my mother's eyes. That is where the answer lay. Our telepathy would turn on like a light bulb, and I would reply, "Yes, ma." Hajarat Alli is a writer who resides in Ilorin, Kwara State. She is a communications specialist, a creative storyteller, and a volunteer literature and English teacher. You can read more of her work on preciousHajblog.wordpress.com and connect with her on Instagram at PoetiusHajara, on X at PreciousHaj, and on LinkedIn at Hajarat Ali. Details and links will be in the episode description. If you've got a story you would like to be featured on this podcast, or a published book you want to make into an audiobook, send an email to info@osademebi.com or send me a message at osademebi on either Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, or X. I look forward to collaborating with you. And if you've enjoyed this week's episode, please subscribe, leave a review, and tell someone, everyone, that stories are a good escape for a few minutes each week.